Welcome to Sacred U's Pathway to Wellbeing, the podcast dedicated to guiding you on a transformative journey towards personal growth, empowerment, and spiritual enlightenment. On today's episode, I am thrilled to be the guest. So tune in as I share my journey from overcoming a genetic disorder which involved undergoing 30 operations to creating Sacred U, a global community connecting all women who are on a spiritual, holistic, and well-being journey. If you'd really like to support Sacred U, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, or check us out at www.sacredu.love for more valuable resources. May you enjoy today's conversation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pathways to Wellbeing. It is my absolute pleasure today to be speaking with the beautiful Sophia Soul, who is the brainchild behind this incredible community. And it's such, if I can just say, Sophia, this community is so welcoming and it's so nurturing and it's so giving. It's a beautiful thing that you've set up here. So first of all, thank you for doing that, and welcome to your own space. It seems a bit weird, doesn't it? But I think it's really important that everyone has a story, and when we take the time to understand people's journeys and how things became, I think there's such a bigger appreciation for them. So I'm really pleased that I get the chance and the honour to be able to interview you here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Helen. It is an honour to be here, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with you, really. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. Can I just say, and I'd love to go in this more, I want to, thank you for saying that I'm the brainchild. It was more of a surrender to the universe.
Yeah, okay, let's start there, because I want to start big and then I'm going to come back down in and get more into how you got here. But right now, so you've created this global community, which is just impressive in itself. When you say you surrendered to the universe, what do you mean by that?
My whole life has been a life of surrender. I've always known from a very young age, I'm talking like 3 or 4, that I'm here for a greater purpose. And I also knew that there was so much more to the world that we see, so very much more. And my whole life, like I said, I've just followed my guidance from just about everything that I've done, from my sound healing, from my travels, for even living on the road, living in a car, everything else has all been following my guidance. I've always known that I've been taken care of. And I always know that everything will work out for what it's meant to be, even if I don't think so. So the Sacred U was totally on guidance. I was brought down to where I'm currently living in Newcastle. I did not want to come here. Newcastle's a nice place for anyone who's been here, but it was not on my list. And I rather objected when it was time, when I was told I was going to come down here. I fought as much as I could. But when I came, it was for a purpose, and it was just slowly. Sacred U has been created just by guidance, by following those breadcrumbs, following the feelings, my intuition. And I have a very dear friend who also lives in the same area. At that stage, I didn't even know, who we both had a similar thought of creating a global community for women everywhere, all over the world. And that's a global community. So it just started.
Yeah, and that's so wonderful that you have gotten to that point where you actually do listen. And it's funny because we do resist, and it's if the thing keeps knocking, it's okay, fine. Just answer the door and go. And it was when you moved to Newcastle that then the next door was able to open up. You meet the people, you have the coincidental happenings that happen that, like you said, and I loved what you said, that it's following the breadcrumbs. There's too much, I think, we try to understand and map it all out and have it clear and logical in our heads before we take a step. And that's a lot of hard work, but having that trust and surrender to just follow the breadcrumbs and go, okay, I'm meant to go this way, take the step, and then the next step opens up and the next step opens up. I think that's a beautiful way to live.
Yes, it is. It's still challenging. You've still got
Yeah.
the universe gives us guidance, but doesn't show us how to learn our lessons. That's what we're here for. And you've still got to go through the letting go, even though I really do live a life of surrender as much as I possibly can. The ego still loves to control.
Oh, definitely.
Still thinks that, I know what to do, I know the way, and it's not till we go through whatever struggle, whatever challenge we've got to go through before we learn, actually, if I had to let go, it would have been a lot easier.
Yeah. And it's good to go through those things because it just reinforces, I knew it. How often have we said, I knew it in my gut that this was what I was meant to do, but I overrid it by this clever brain of mine. And having those experiences, but also having that awareness so that you can reflect and go, all right, just listen to your gut. It's always going to guide you in the right way.
So many times until we absolutely learn the lesson. But
Yeah,
it's all part of life. It's just part.
that's exactly right. Life is learning, it's experiencing, it's growing. And above all, I think it's about having fun along the way. Now, your life, though, didn't start out like that. So let's go back a little bit because I read in one of your posts that you were born with a genetic disorder. So what was that disorder?
Okay,
You need a lot of operations as well.
I've had lots of operations. I've had over 30 operations in this body. I believe I made the choice. Don't know why. I'd like to have a little word with myself after this time, but I believe that we make choices before we come into this body. I've been around many times in other lifetimes. And for some unknown reason, I made the choice or the decision to be born into a body that has a genetic condition. It's called Trichorhinophalangeal syndrome, or phalangeal, I think it is. Type 2.
What does that mean?
Different levels. There are 3 different levels. I've got the middle one, the second one. Basically, what it means, trichorhinophalangeal syndrome, is hair, nose, and fingers. I've got very short hair, which is why I wear this cap, just because I can't grow my hair. I've got very fine hair and short, so I just can't grow it. So I just wear this because I like it. Hair, nose, I've got a bulbous nose. Apparently, I didn't know anything was wrong with my nose, but when I went and saw the genetic specialist, she said, yes, you've got a bulbous nose. The only thing I knew is I can't blow my nose. And I've got weird shaping fingers. I've got triple knuckles on some of them and all sorts of things. But what the main thing was is that as I was growing up, all my joints, I developed lumps of cartilage on all my joints, which caused me significant pain. And where I was born was at that time was a reasonably small country town, and they didn't know what it was, except that I had these lumps that were causing me difficulties. So they thought the only thing we can do is take them off. So I started the journey of having over a 10-year period, roughly, having about 30 operations. I was having 2 to 3 operations a year, sometimes more, to remove all these lumps of cartilage. And then, of course, they just grow back. So then and it wasn't until I went to Brisbane when I think I was 20, that I saw a genetic specialist and got actually diagnosed with what it was, and found out that it was genetic, that my mother also has the same condition, but not as bad as me. She didn't have the bone problems, but we looked the same. Her mother had the same condition, and probably before that. So that's what it was. And I really believe that I was born into this body to learn lessons.
So what do you think you've learned from your life experience?
One of the biggest things is acceptance and responsibility for my own life. When I first started out, probably a lot of people, before I really became aware of what's going on, I was a victim. It was like all me. I couldn't understand why me and why not my sister. I found out later we definitely got the same parents. It's not like different things, but we're definitely related. But she's totally different to me. She's tall, she's strong. She used to be Australian women's champion powerlifter. She's been to Olympic Games. She's not Olympic Games, World Championships. And she's very strong. It was like, why me? Why not her?
Interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Same, yeah.
Same thing. To me, in my mind at that stage, if something is genetic, then why don't you all have it?
Yeah.
I blame my mother.
Yeah.
Because she gave birth to me. I blame God. I didn't like God at that stage, wasn't interested. What did I do? Why did you give me this? And it wasn't until I just started getting a little bit older in my early teens that I started to really to hear and understand or look into this concept of karma and reincarnation. That, like I said, I've always felt that I don't belong in this world, in this lifetime, that I've come from a different place. I've always felt that I've been in other places. I'm very much at home in India. I'm very much at home in Asia. I'm much more at home over there than I am here in Australia. And also, when you bring into the concept of reincarnation, then it's also karma. So it was like, okay, I've done something in a previous life or lifetimes, what I believe, that has resulted in me taking birth into this body. Now, I may have been born in a lifetime where I've been extremely beautiful and I've had a very strong body and I've flaunted it, like I've used it in the wrong way. Or I may have, I'm thinking, picked on, but really not insulted, but really noticed other people who have beautiful bodies or other people who have genetic conditions or disorders and may have picked on them, people who have other genetic conditions. So it was like, okay, you've got to learn the lesson of what it's like to be picked on, what it's like to be bullied. And I was extremely bullied.
Yeah.
And also the lesson to take responsibility that this is my life. So I have a choice. I can play the victim. I can be a victim and go, poor me, I've got this body, I'm no good, I'm in pain, I've got to have all these operations, I look different, poor me. Or I can take responsibility for my life and go, how can I make the best of this situation?
And that in itself, Sophia, is such a powerful realization, such a powerful question. It's so empowering. Because if we're here to learn our lessons, how do you learn a lesson if you're still in the blame, if you're still in the victim? You can't learn that lesson. So that shift in that one shift in that mindset allowed you to see a whole different perspective and it puts you on a different path. So did that shift come from anything specific or was it just something that, I don't know, just happened in your life?
I think it was a process of a few things happening. I remember when I was at high school, and high school was not a good year for me. And they say school is the best years of your life. For me, it was the worst.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in primary school or lower school, everyone grows up with you. Everyone knew me. It was fine. I'd be the person who couldn't run, couldn't do sports, and used to go off and be in hospital quite a bit. But when I went to high school, no one knew me.
Yeah.
So I was picked on. I was extremely bullied because children, especially teenagers, young teenagers, if you don't know what's normal, if you're confronted with something that's outside of the box, like how do I deal with this situation? How do I deal with whether it's a person, whether it's a situation, whatever? It's a reaction. And as children, teenagers, we don't, especially in today's world generally, we don't learn at a young age about acceptance of everything and everyone, and that we're all still equal, but we just look differently. So I was extremely bullied. So it was in my early teens or early high school that I wanted out. I decided
out of this world.
out of this world.
Yeah.
So I did try a couple of times to get out of this world, but it wasn't a strong try. I was really calling out for help, and it was really like, okay, I can live my life like this. I can, as in the victim, I can blame others. I can say that it's God's fault, it's my mother's fault, it's my sister's fault, everything else. Or I can do something about it. And I think it was around that age and probably around those times when I was bullied a lot, where it's like, okay, what am I going to do about this? I can keep on being bullied, or I can slowly start to learn how I can not defend myself in a physical way, but not let it affect me.
Yeah. So that, was there something specific? Because that is an incredible shift in itself as a teenager, as somebody who was so much in that victim mindset, to just come out of it enough to realize, hang on a minute, I've got choice here. Was there something, was there a person, was there something you had heard, or was it just in that vulnerable moment, something that just got downloaded to you?
I remember, if I can tell you one experience, when I was in high school, I remember this still. I was walking down a hill, the high school, and this boy was coming up the other way, and he looked at me and he laughed. He just stood there and laughed at me. And it was like, it was in that moment, it's like, this is not who I am. What I look like physically is not who I am. There is so much more to me. And I needed to find a way to really go into that. And I think that was the real start of my spiritual journey, if you want to call it. Even though I, like I said, from a very young age, I knew that there was something more, that that there's so much more to what we know. But I really went into it then, that no one deserves to be treated like that. It was also at that time, that very moment, that I decided that I would never have children, ever have children, because you can recover, the body recovers to a certain extent from physical trauma, from surgery, even though it always carries the memories of it, but physically you can recover. But that emotional trauma of being bullied and everything else, I wouldn't want anyone else to go through that. So it was like, no, this is, what am I here for? What's my purpose? And it certainly wasn't to walk around and let other people laugh at me and let that affect me.
Yeah.
It's their stuff, not my stuff.
That was a huge acceptance of self in that moment.
Yes. Yes. Because we have a choice, but what, a lot of people don't realize that, especially when you're really young.
Yeah.
You
It's
don't.
hard. Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
That we have
exactly.
a choice. I said we can choose to live the poor me and blame everyone else, or we can go, okay, this is my life. So people will continue to do things and say things and everything else because that's the world, right? Even me, I really try not to judge other people. I really do, because I know what it's like to be judged.
Yeah.
But there's an automatic thing. You see someone and you're automatically judging them, labeling them, everything else, right? Because that's human nature. But it's how I react, or how I let what other people say or do affect me. It's my feelings. It's not their feelings. It's my feelings. So when I start to take responsibility for my feelings, your life changes. My life changed, when I go, okay, I don't want to be sad, sorrow, depressed all my life. Because if I do, I want out of here now. And that didn't work.
Yeah. We've tried that. There's got to be something else.
No, that's not going to happen. So, okay, if I want to live a good life, and I'm still working at it, but if I want to live the best life that I can, then what am I going to do about it? How can I take responsibility for my life and not be affected by other people?
Happiness is a choice, isn't it?
It is, indeed.
And the whole blame versus responsibility, that is, it's oh, look, it can be considered as basic personal development, but in my opinion, it is the most powerful and important part of personal development. Because if you can't take responsibility for your own choices, your own actions, your thoughts, how you feel, then you are powerless. That is the one thing that we are able to do. But we've got to want to do it. We've got to choose to do it. And yeah, everybody judges. We all do it every day. It's having that awareness though, and there's a difference between looking at someone and making an observation versus looking at someone, making an observation and then making a harsh judgment and making either yourself feel less than or yourself feel better than. So that's where, if you can come to peace, look, we all judge, we compare, call it whatever name you want, but it's the intention behind what we're then doing that we control. Am I making myself feel better than or less than that person? And if you're doing either of them, it's not going to feel good. So stop it. That is your choice to stop it as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we are incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
Incredibly powerful.
Yeah, that to me is one of the biggest lessons.
Absolutely.
To really be on an equal level with everyone. So I'm not better or worse than anyone else, that we're all actually equal. We have different roles.
Yeah.
We have different identities, but we're actually all equal. It doesn't matter whether you're the president or you're a cleaner or a pope or well, now we've got a king, the king, or you clean the toilets. You're all equal.
Yeah.
And all are valued. No matter what we do in our roles that we play. And that's another big lesson that I learned, huge lesson, is the difference between who I am and the roles that we play.
Exactly. The behaviors is just something that we do. It's not who you are. Because we can all make bad choices in the moment. We can all do things that we regret, or we can miss over things. It's all about choices, and then having that, it's the responsibility that you're making the choice to do or not do. And then it's the acceptance of the consequence of the choice. And from that, you can then grow as a person to go, that happened, it worked well or it didn't work well. What are you going to do about it? And then that is entirely up to you as well. It's responsibility and acceptance, I think, are the two of the most powerful things that we can learn as human beings.
Totally agree.
So then what happened? You had this moment of, right, that's it. You drew a line in the sand. Then what happened from late teenager through maybe the next 10 years? Where were you?
Onward, really, that was really my growth period. Like I said, I needed to do something about my life and I didn't really know exactly what. I started to meditate, and within that meditation, I also discovered self-esteem, or really learnt about self-esteem, because I had none. Like my self-esteem was absolutely, or self-worth was absolutely gone.
Mm.
So I was guided, and this is the surrender thing, I was guided to learn a 7-step self-esteem process to regain my self-esteem. And I learnt it, I practiced it, and I started to teach it and run retreats and courses and everything else. And every day I would start off with, who am I? What is my identity? Not what I do, not the roles that I was playing, but who am I really? And for me, I said, we're all equal. We're all beings of light, of energy, that no matter what we do in our life, and this is every single being on this planet, no matter what we do physically, I truly believe that we all started off as a pure being, full of love, full of wisdom, full of peace, full of truth. It may have got covered up and actions now may be completely different, but we all started off that way. And that's what I wanted to get back to.
Yeah.
So every day I would practice, like I would pick a virtue and I would practice it, and I would go around and I would see it in other people as well as myself, because I also believe what we see in others is an absolute reflection of ourselves.
100%.
And that's
Yeah.
both positive and negative. People say
Yeah.
that this person's like that. It's because we've got some of that inside of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what that is.
Exactly.
And that can also be on the positive way. If you see someone who's really beautiful, really happy, or really whatever, it's because we have that within us. And I was not a happy person, really, not at all. But I believe that we were born, or we came into this world, into these lives on our journey, completely happy. But it all got covered up. So I wanted to get that back. So every day I would practice. Who am I? What is my identity? I would look for it in other people. And then I moved on to really starting to appreciate myself, because I was a big person, not a big person, but I was a person that really appreciation in others. I was a people pleaser. That's it. Appreciation and approval. And for me, when I'm a people pleaser, it's because I don't approve of myself, or it's because I don't appreciate myself. So I was looking for appreciation from other people. I never looked after me. I remembered I was a carer for someone who was completely visually impaired, right? An amazing guitarist, but totally blind. And I spent a good few months of my life, I think about 18 months of my life, looking after this person, driving him everywhere to guitars, learning how to sight read, driving him to conservatoriums, driving him all over the place to buy guitars. And one day this little voice inside of me yelled at me, "What the hell are you doing?" And I stopped and I go, "What am I doing?" Because you don't appreciate yourself. You're seeking appreciation from this. And I got a lot of appreciation. He said, "I appreciate you so much." His family, "Oh, we appreciate you, everything that you're doing." So I was seeking that appreciation from other people because I didn't appreciate me.
And can I ask you, getting all of that, thank you, Sophia, we appreciate what you're doing. Did that fill the void?
At that stage, but I never looked after me.
It was dependent on the topping up.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't coming from in,
It wasn't
out. It was out. It would,
in.
and as long as there was the source, and this is where I think people get a lot stuck, because it's then, well, why aren't you appreciating me? It's not my job to appreciate you. You got to appreciate yourself, because everything starts within.
That's so true. That's what happens a lot in relationships, whether it's appreciation, approval, or love, or happiness. Why don't you love me? Why don't you make me feel happy? Exactly right. You know, we need to learn how to fulfill our own spiritual needs. And it takes lessons, and it takes sorrow, you know, whatever, sorrow, or just lessons. And for me, it was completely devoting my life to other people, to fulfilling their needs, and not doing anything for me, that I had to learn the lesson and listen. And I finally listened to this voice that yelled at me. I said one night, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm doing this because I don't appreciate myself. So stop doing that and start appreciating yourself, and it will be a lot better." So I did. And then I moved on to approving of myself, because when we appreciate of ourselves, and this is really strong, you know, like standing in front of a mirror naked going, "I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you for who you are," and feeling it deep within your soul. And when you do that, then you start to approve of the things you do. Appreciation is like a being. Approval is the doing. How many times do we do things that we don't actually want to do, but we do it because we want approval from others?
Yeah, too often.
So when I start to approve of me, then I develop boundaries, I develop integrity, I start respecting myself, and other people start respecting me too. But I no longer have to do things just to get approval, just to feel like I'm fitting in with others.
Yeah.
So that was a big part of my life. We went right up to and developing more confidence in myself and accepting myself totally, accepting the things that I can do, accepting the things that I can't do. Stop trying to live other people's lives. Stop trying to do everything, even though I can't do everything. And it's still lessons. I'm not perfect, because I'm still here in this physical body. When we finally get all our lessons learned, we don't need a physical body anymore, but it's a whole process.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And oh gosh, and it becomes that domino effect. You get that one thing done, and then it's easier then to do the next thing, do the next thing, do the next thing. And then before you know it, you've got that. You're back to that pure self-love. You just look at any baby. They are pure love and joy. And that is I agree with you 100%. That is how we come into this world, and it never leaves us. It just gets covered off, maybe a little bit pinched off or hard to find. But if you want it, you can find your way back to it. And that in itself has got to, or gives me hope that it's possible. And hearing stories from people like yourself is proof that it's possible. So if you can do it, it means anyone can do it. And that's the magical thing, I think, about being a human as well. There's so many positive role models out there that we can look to and get guidance from, be inspired by, not compare, be inspired by, to follow in their footsteps, but do it your way, because it's not about doing it exactly how somebody else did it. It's about doing what is proven to work in a way that also feels good for you. There's always wiggle room, but you're heading in the direction. And as long as you're heading in the direction, I think things are always going to work out. Like you said, things are always working out. It's one of my favorite sayings as well.
Yes, it's a big thing to remember. Sometimes stuff happens because stuff's going to continue to happen, because I believe that, personally, Helen, and I know I have to be a little bit quiet, don't put this out to the universe too much, but life would be boring if we never had our challenges. We wouldn't be able to grow without that stuff that happens that, we don't want to go through, but when we do, we're so much stronger.
That's right. And then this is a little bit what we were talking about in the Law of Attraction tribe today. That polarity is there in everything. And you need to have that contrast to know what you don't want, to know clearer what you do want. But it doesn't have to be these extreme highs and extreme lows. You can find contrast and get clarity from that contrast by just moving a little bit like this. You don't have to completely rock the boat and tip it over to be able to come back. You can just make it a little bit of an angle.
Absolutely.
But life would be very boring if everything was just, I don't know, uneventful and ticking along. We like those times. They're really nice. Enjoy it. But then you do want a little bit of variety in your life. Variety is always good. What's that saying? Variety is the spice of life.
Indeed it is.
Good. So you've done this huge self-discovery, but you put in the effort, you did the work, you got to a place where you were feeling good about yourself. What happened next?
What happened next was really my physical body. And again, this is a whole process. It didn't happen straight away. Regaining of self-esteem, which it's a journey I'm still on. But compared to a few years ago, if we go back into comparison, which I know that's another conversation in itself, it's such a huge shift. And I worked on myself spiritually and emotionally, but physically I was still having a lot of pain. I stopped having surgery because when I stopped growing, my bones stopped growing.
Yeah.
All the joints stopped growing. So I didn't need any more surgery. But the opposite happened is all my joints started to break down. And I developed osteoarthritis at a very young age and was in chronic pain and had all sorts of issues. And it wasn't until and again, you can say that this is universal, see, depends, that I actually had a couple of accidents in a way. I fell downstairs and completely and totally wrecked both my knees at two different times. I wrecked my right knee once and then my left knee, but I wrecked both of them. And when I went to see the orthopedic surgeon, he said, there's nothing you can do except have 2 knee replacements, but you're too young. So you'll have knee replacement now, and in 5 to 10 years' time, you'll be having another one. It was like, at that moment, sitting inside his surgery, inside his office, my body, I actually felt my body go into trauma. I felt my body contract, and it yelled at me again. It was such a powerful thing. It said, stop. No more surgery. No more drugs. There has to be a better way, because I was on heavy duty narcotics also, not constantly, but to help with pain. And it really yelled at me, there has to be another way. It was right there in that surgery that I made a decision that I'd never have surgery again, unless it was an emergency. You know, sometimes stuff does happen.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple more surgeries since then, but stuff does happen. But no more of this surgery here, of the bone surgery, and no more drugs, because I said I was on heavy duty narcotics. So I went on a healing journey, a physical healing journey. And I went to India for 4 months, and I was fortunate enough to go to India for 4 months, and I did all the natural things. I went to a naturopath retreat center, and I got off all the medication. I detoxed. I did yoga. I started to walk again. I got steamed. I got baked. I got all sorts of stuff. So much so that when I finished, I was able to walk 5 to 7 Ks without any problems, right? And before, I could hardly walk 100 meters.
Wow.
So that was one thing, and that started me on. And even though it was a really good foundation, I was still getting in pain. I just refused to take any medication for it.
Yep.
So I would try other things. I tried Reiki, I tried massage, I tried all the different healing modalities, which really helped, but it never went to the source. So it would fix the pain for that time, but then something would happen and I'd get back in pain and whatever. And it wasn't till I discovered sound healing and breath work. I really wanted to do some breath work because I wanted to release. I was born in what's been told is a financial war zone. And I really believe that, again, from a very young age, children, we absorb everything that's told around us that we hear.
Yes.
And my parents just were arguing constantly about money. And money has been a big part of my life, or the lack of money, been a big part of my life for most of my life. So I wanted to clear that. So I went to a breath worker who happened to be a sound healer. And while I was doing my breath work, releasing this stuff, this person started doing sound healing with their voice and their instruments. And it was like my body woke up. And again, it said to me, this is what I need. This will heal me.
Wow.
Sound. And that totally changed my life, because I became a sound healing junkie. I went to as many sound healings as I could. The universe provided me with a way to travel with a sound healer. We traveled eight months overseas. We went up and down the east coast of Australia a few times, and I was able to absorb as much sound, the vibration sound, as I could. And my body healed in various different ways. And this is no joke, I felt my hip being glued back together. I felt my knee being sewn back. I really did. There was one time that I was laying down and I had 6 pairs of hands over me, drawing the pain out. And this is all through sound. And it was incredible. And I started to jog again, not run. I'm flat-footed, not run, but jog. My body wanted to move. It wanted to jog. So I started to gently jog again. And that is all through sound. And I've never had a bone surgery like that. I did, yes, as you probably know, I did fall over a couple of years ago and smashed my shoulder. And after a couple of days of not knowing that I had a broken shoulder, I went, because I couldn't move my arm, and I went to get it checked, and they go, you've got a smashed shoulder and there's nothing you can do, but you have to get it reconstructed.
Yeah.
So it's pretty bad. So it's things like that. I mean, we live in a world where there is medicine, right? That's why it's there. But there's also so much there that isn't good for us. And I knew, even though I was taking narcotic drugs back then, I also knew that they were also contributing to the pain because it was so toxic. So I had to go to India to get rid of all those toxins that were in my body from all the narcotics. So my body could then start to go on its healing journey and direct me towards sound.
And this is the thing, our bodies are incredible in what they do, and they know how to heal. And then everything's at a resonance. So it's about coming into, and can you explain a little bit more what sound healing does? Because this is my interpretation of it, and I could be way off base here. So please correct me if I'm wrong. It's getting you in resonance with that healing so that you can attract it in, so that your body is in a space where it can do what it naturally knows to do.
Yes, very similar. Yes, that's what I understand too. I mean, we are all beings of frequency. We really are. Sometimes we vibrate at a very high frequency and we feel it. Everything's light. Everything happens easily for us. We're happy, joyful. We can manifest easily. And sometimes we vibrate at a very low frequency and all the stuff happens to us.
Because we're always manifesting. It's either what we want or what we don't want, but always manifesting.
Always manifesting, and we're always vibrating at different frequencies. So sound is also a frequency.
Yeah.
So when we allow sound, it's just like it's just like ultrasound and everything else. But when we allow sound, and for me, I'm talking about the healing sounds, right?
Yeah.
At those frequencies, because look, some people vibrate to heavy metal.
Okay.
And that's good for them. That really is good for them. It's another frequency.
Yeah.
The healing frequencies, they say it's around the 500 hertz range, which is also the frequency of love.
Yeah.
And when we give ourselves permission to absorb those frequencies, your body can it becomes one. Right? You've got the sound frequency, you've got your frequency, and it all becomes one. And those frequencies heal. It heals the energy, or it cleanses the energy that is our actual physical bodies.
Beautiful. And you are a walking, talking, living testament of the power of that. It's fantastic.
Thank you. But again, it's a journey. I've been up and down. I've stopped, when we had the pandemic, I stopped doing the sound healing. I stopped doing the things that I wanted to do. So then my body got back into pain and struggle. So now it's okay. I have the tools. I know what this body needs. It needs sound. So what can I do to give it that?
Yeah.
To keep it vibrating at the frequency that it needs to, where it's not in any pain. There's no struggle. It's just, this is what I need right now. And
it's so lovely to have that clarity. And then you've got the choice. I know if I do it, this is what happens. If I don't do it, this is what happens. comes back to that responsibility again. And yeah, knowing so clearly as well the consequence of your choices, I guess it makes the choice a lot easier, doesn't it?
It does. And that's the thing. It's the consequences of the choices. And that's all choices.
Yes, that's right. It's across every aspect of our life, because it's easy to eat healthy. It's just a little bit easier not to. Make the choices that make it easier for you to make the choices that you know are going to be good for your body.
I love food, but I know the consequences. If I eat too much, even if it's healthy, if I eat too much and I'm not doing enough physical movement in whatever way that is, then I'm going to put on weight. That's my choice. The consequences is at some stage I'm going to have to shift that weight, which means I have to do more physical movement.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's so, when you break it down like that, it is so simple. It's just choice. And if I make this choice, am I happy with the consequence? And it can be that simple if you really stop overthinking it. So you've had this incredible emotional healing, you've had a physical healing. What happened next? This is more where you're really in tune with your body at this point. You're really listening to that intuition. When did the voice say, move to Newcastle? And you've gone, no, I don't want to. If the universe had a hand, it would have slapped you.
I still remember that day. That was around, I was still doing sound healing. I was back in Australia, but by then, yes, I was a sound practitioner.
Yeah.
And I had my own car, I had my own equipment and everything. And I was just traveling. I was living a wonderful life. I was house sitting and I traveled to do sound healing programs up and down the east coast of Australia. And it was beautiful. It was like I enjoyed it. Sometimes I was living in my car because that was my choice. I have been guided to some most fantastic places that I would never have gone if I wasn't traveling in my car. Like I have slept on the east coast of Australia, like there is the ocean. I've also slept on the bottom of Australia, right on the bottom, right where there's the ocean. Fantastic experiences. And really, and I'd be driving down the road and I'd get this little voice saying, turn right. And I'd go, okay, don't know where we're going, but okay. And I'd end up in, like, again, places that I'd never see if I wasn't doing this. And then one day, a few years ago, I remember it was February and I was in a place, mid New South Wales, and it was like, I've got to look for somewhere, a long-term house sit for winter, because I don't want to be sleeping in my car in winter. I'm a cold.
Yeah.
I don't like the cold.
Yeah.
And in my plan, I was going to head north to Queensland because for us, north is warmer, and I was going to spend a good few months in north during winter. I said, I just want one place. Don't want to be moving around, just one place, long term over winter. And I was driving down the road and it was like, do I turn left or do I turn right? Do I turn left or do I turn right? And I was like, you've got to go right. And I go, I'm not going right, that's south. You've got to go right. You've got to go right.
No, you're not listening to me, universe. I want to go north to the warm. So tell me to turn north.
You've got to go right. And also a couple of days around that, I looked on the house sitting site and here was a 5-month house sit during winter in Newcastle. And I'm going, no. And it was like, you have to. You must. So eventually, I did, and I came down here, and it was really, and I got the house set, and it was like within a couple of days, I still remember walking through where I was, and it was like, what am I doing here? Because I've lived in Newcastle before where we are, and it's a beautiful place, but it's a very hard energy. Very hard energy, hard to do things. And even everyone, when I said that I'm coming to Newcastle, they said you're going to have a interesting time, or it's going to be more of a challenging time to do sound healings. I used to go to places do sound healings and they'd sell out like that. Yes, sound healings are very popular, but in Newcastle it never happened. You've got to build, so it takes longer. And I remember being in this place and it was like, what the hell am I doing here? If I'm not meant to be here, I'm out of here now. I know it's a 5-month house sit, but I'm out of here now. And it was very clear. This is where you're going to stay. This is where you are settling. And I go, no,
Are you sure?
you will stay here. Not in that place, but in that.
Yeah, in the area.
And I've moved, and again, the universe provided. It just happens, and where and how I came to where I am now, which happens to be the same house as my business partner, who and his wife, who owns a B&B, and they were actually looking at that stage. They had 3 rooms as a B&B. They wanted to rent one out on a permanent basis and drop down to 2 rooms. And I go, okay.
And you didn't know them before?
No,
that's right. Listen to me, Sophia. You need to go to Newcastle to meet these people because that's where they are.
Yes, and that was just all part of what was meant to happen.
So how did Kim become your business partner?
Because we were talking about, we both had this guidance of establishing communities for women all over the world. We both, it was like, we've got this feeling. I don't know who mentioned it. I might have mentioned it first, or someone mentioned it. It was like, that's the same. And it was like, how can we do this? And it all just happened. It just did. I'm very fortunate. Kim is a very amazing business person. He has another business, a very successful business. He knows about businesses where I don't that much, but I know about community and connect and things like that. Yes, we've had our challenges. Yes, we think differently. Kim is a male, I'm a female. We have different brains. We definitely have different brains. We definitely see things differently. But if you combine those differences and work with them, it actually works out to be really well.
Absolutely, because you need both masculine and feminine energies that you bring to create something that is whole, because you can't have all female energy, you can't have all male energy. It doesn't work like that in nature anyway. So it's bringing them together to create this incredible community. So just very quickly before we wrap it up, tell me about this community that you've created now.
Oh, Helen, Sacred You. Maybe I can ask you to tell us, but Sacred You is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And I truly believe, again, that it was actually, even though Kim and I are the physical co-creators in person, I really believe that it was led by the universe and it's guided by the universe. I don't think I would be here without Sacred You. Right? This is the reason why I was brought to Newcastle. And also along the way, just the guidance that we've received for different things, to create different things, to go down different paths that I would never have thought about myself. Like, I really wouldn't think that we'd be creating a global community that we've had. It's still a journey. We're still learning, but the amount of women and men too, but the amount of people that we've been able to connect with, the amount of people that we've been able to touch their lives, and that's our mission. Our motto is to touch lives everywhere, in whatever way that may be. It could be just connection. Everyone has a need for connection. It's one of the 6 human that I think it was Maslow and Tony Robbins and everyone else talks about, that we need that connection. And yes, we are online at the moment. We do also offer, we were offering local physical connections and will be again. But right now we're guided to do online. But you never know who you're going to meet and connect with from all over the world, the people that you may never meet in person, but you can develop that deep connection with others, with yourself, with ourselves. Big thing is we've lost that connection to ourselves. And this is the ironic stuff, if I can say. Technology in one way has taken us away from ourselves, because we're so caught up. I don't have my phone at the moment, but we're so caught up in our mobile devices and our computers and everything else. We've lost that connection. But yet we can also use technology as a tool to connect, to reconnect with ourselves, with us and others from all over the world. Sacred You offers times like sacred times, meditation times, and just to sit down and really go in, deep connect with that connection. Again, that's all lessons because it's a priority, learning just to stop and be rather than doing. It's connecting with other people, it's connecting with our purpose. If someone has a passion about something, then we have our special interest tribes that you can connect with other people with that same passion, or we can help you create a tribe if we don't already offer it. It's all about empowerment too. One of my driving forces, especially for me, with my experience, is not only to empower myself, but to give opportunities that allow others to empower themselves.
It's truly beautiful when people come together with the same heart and lift each other up. And just kudos to you as well, Sophia, for actually listening to those voices, to having the smarts to surrender and think there is something bigger than us. I don't know everything, and let's just be guided. Because a lot of people don't listen to their gut, they don't listen to their intuition, they allow the logical to take over. But having that beautiful surrender is a big part that can't be overlooked lightly, because you are here because of that. You've built what you've built because of that, because you've allowed things to just unfold, and you've allowed the people who need to come into your life to come into your life and to create this incredible community. It's a beautiful thing that you've done here.
Thank you. And we're honored that you are a part of.
Well, thank you. And this is another thing technology's got its thing. It's that whole polarity. There's good, there's bad. But if it wasn't for technology, I wouldn't have met the person who then introduced me to your world, and we wouldn't have had this connection. And so many people that I know that I wouldn't know if it wasn't for technology as well, and for taking the time too, and listening to your gut, because there's sometimes you get messages and you think, oh yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. And then there's others where it's, you know what, this one, I'm going to connect with this person, but right now, because this happened to me just the other day, it was like, oh, it's Friday afternoon, I don't have the time and the headspace to properly connect with her, so I'm going to leave it and I'm going to do it on Monday. And then we had this amazing conversation. So it's listening to those little inklings and not getting caught up in the shoulds and what society expects and what others expect, and none of that. It's truly just surrendering and just feeling good and knowing that there is a bigger purpose, and just allowing yourself to be led can open up so many opportunities for us. And this is a perfect example of what allowing yourself to be led and putting in the work and making those conscious choices. Everything really does work out in the end. If it hasn't worked out, it's not the end.
And that, my dear, is so very true. And I love it. If it hasn't worked out, it's not the end yet.
Keep going while you can still keep going. Sophia, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for asking me to interview you, because hearing people's stories is such a gift, I think. So I've really loved having this interaction with you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Like I said, it's been an honor for me. It really has. And I look forward to being on this journey with you and everyone else in Sacred You, and in touching the lives of people everywhere.
It's more emotional now, which I don't know why. I just feel so, I don't know, so grateful.